All right, so let's start this broadcast with some breaking inputs that have come in, where protesters in Nepal have taken to the streets again despite the government revoking a ban on social media. Now, clashes between the protesters and the police on Monday had led to the death of at least about 19 and 400 others had been injured. Now, the Kathmandu District Administration Office has imposed an indefinite curfew inside of the Ring Road area of the Nepalese capital, reintroducing restriction just hours after an earlier order was lifted. The protesters are blocking the road outside of the Nepalese parliament. They are also targeting the residences of ministers in Kathmandu, hurling stones and also setting properties on fire, including that of the Minister of Communication and Information Technology, Prithvi Subba Gurung. Now, the protesters have warned that they will not stop until KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister, resigns. Meanwhile, Nepal's Agriculture Minister Ramnath Adhikari and also the Health Minister Pradeep Paudel, both aligned with the Nepalese Congress, have resigned from their posts, condemning the government's crackdown. Their resignation follows of the Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak, who had stepped down, taking moral responsibility for the government's handling of the protests. India, meanwhile, has raised concerns about the protest. In a statement, New Delhi has said that it is closely monitoring the developments since yesterday and is deeply saddened by the loss of many young lives. Now, taking note that the authorities have imposed curfew in Kathmandu and several other cities in Nepal, it has advised the Indian nationals there to exercise caution and to adhere to the steps and guidance issued by the Nepalese authorities. A decision to lift the ban on social media sites was made after an emergency cabinet meeting late on Monday. The ban was put in place last week on sites which did not comply with a deadline to register with Nepal's Ministry of Communications and Information Technology. The KP Sharma Oli made the announcement, blaming infiltration by various vested interest groups for Monday's violence. An investigation committee has now been formed to look into this violence. It's been given 15 days' time to prepare a report looking into the aspects of how the situation had escalated and also the possible factors behind it. Meanwhile, UNICEF has said that it is deeply alarmed by reports of violence against children. Now, the United Nations resident coordinator for the country has described the situation so unlike Nepal and fears that casualty numbers could in fact rise. The European Union, in a statement, has expressed some deep regrets over the death and violence of the ongoing demonstrations. Now, amongst the personalities who reacted includes actress Manisha Koirala. She called Monday to be a black day for Nepal, condemning the bullet response to the quote-unquote voice of the people and outrage against corruption and a demand for justice. And our correspondent Saloni Murarka has been tracking the story very closely for us and has sent us this report from Kathmandu. Take a look.
Protesters are surrounding the parliament area. They burned the tires. They burned the tires here right in front of the parliament building. And now stone pelting has just begun from both the sides. Police officials are guarding the premises of the parliament. They demand the resignation of the Prime Minister Oli's government, and they say that the rising corruption and widening inequality has tortured the civilians of the country, and that's why all the people and the young people, they leave the nation. As you can see, the stone pelting has begun. Both sides. Protesters have surrounded the parliament area. These kind of protests are taking place across the Kathmandu in different parts of the city, and also in front of the Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's party office, CPN-UML, as I'm hearing from the ground. And this is happening right in front of the parliament building of the Nepal. This is the Federal Parliament of Nepal, and this is a protest happening here. It has been escalated since morning now, and additional authorities are being deployed around the premises.
All right, now joining us on the broadcast over the phone line is our correspondent Saloni Murarka, who's been tracking the developments very closely. Saloni, give us an update as to what is happening at this moment, because there are reports that are coming in which indicate that possibly the Nepalese Prime Minister and the President's house may also have been vandalized and perhaps set on fire. Are these reports credible? What is happening at this moment?
Oh, yes, very much. Since many protesters attacked party offices, buildings of the leaders and of the political parties. And Prime Minister's residence has also been on fire. Prime Minister Oli.
Right, there seems to be an issue. Saloni, do continue to stay on with us. We'll try and reconnect with you. But this of course, is a big development that you're telling us that has unfolded this moment. I request my producers to reconnect with my colleague Saloni Murarka, who is joining us from Kathmandu. These are very important updates that are coming in with respect to what is happening at this moment in Kathmandu. So these are some very dramatic images that are coming in from Kathmandu in Nepal, where my colleague Saloni Murarka is present on the ground in Kathmandu, and she's just confirmed to us the reports that the Prime Minister's house may have been vandalized. There are reports of stone pelting, vandalism and arson that are being reported on the streets of Kathmandu. This is what the scene looks like at this moment, and we'll connect with my colleague Saloni Murarka in just a bit. But these are massive protests that have rocked Nepal, that has pushed the KP Sharma Oli government to the edge. As the Gen Z, these are, remember, very young protesters who are out on the streets in the tiny Himalayan nation. This, of course, has escalated after KP Sharma Oli revoked a ban on social media, which, remember, had been a key trigger for the nationwide protest to address the demands of the youngsters in Nepal. And these are some pretty fast-paced developments that are unfolding at this moment. Very dramatic scenes of stone pelting, of arson, and there are reports that KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister's residence, has also been vandalized and set on fire. We'll get my colleague Saloni Murarka in just a bit, but these are some pretty dramatic scenes that are unfolding at this moment, and my colleague Saloni Murarka is back with us over the phone line. Saloni, you were telling us about the developments that had been unfolding at the Prime Minister's official residence. What is the update on that front?
Yes, it is his private residence, and many of the leaders' houses have been set on fire here in Kathmandu. The tension remains really high at the moment in the capital. It is very different from the yesterday's protest, as it was just located in one area, but today the entire city has been facing these disturbances and unrest. There have been disruption around the airport. International flights have been asked to halt, and I'm standing at the airport at the moment because the Kathmandu's international airport is on high alert. As I see around is the large numbers of army deployed, armed police force, additional police, Nepal police, and it has created a chaos for the passengers as well. And it is many of the protesters here, they believe that the country's system needs change because of the rising corruption and the inequality. They believe that the country can do much better with much better leadership, and these young people are on ground today to fight for their friends, to fight for the justice, to fight for their friends who have lost their lives in the last evening's protest. And but so far we have not heard any comment from the government side. But the tensions are really high in Kathmandu and also in different parts of the country as well.
Right. Now, we're given to understand that there are several ministers in KP Sharma Oli's cabinet who have stepped down. Have you heard anything from the Prime Minister about the fate of his government? Because the Home Minister of Nepal stepped down, citing moral responsibility for what has happened.
Right. It is in the last evening when they had a meeting, the key coalition partner of KP Sharma Oli is the Nepali Congress. And Nepali Congress, they condemned the attack. They condemned the control and the pressure that the police officials had put on the protesters yesterday. And many of the Nepali Congress ministers are stepping down, condemning the government's role in it. And as we hear day by day, many of the sources at the party office have said that many more ministers will resign. The remaining will be the only party leaders. And there are high chances that this government might not continue. The government is at stake at the moment. The protest has just again begun. I'm outside the airport at the moment.
Right. Saloni, you're saying that you're at the airport. Do look after yourself. Be in a place where it is okay for you to speak. At this moment, you've told us that the Prime Minister's private residence is what was attacked and set on fire. Do we at this moment know as to where KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister of Nepal, is at this moment?
It is many officials here at the security forces have said that Prime Minister Oli is seeking some medical treatment. So we are not really sure if he'll continue the treatment here or outside somewhere. But we are closely following this, and hence all the protesters have gathered here at the airport is because they assume that the prime ministers or the leaders will exit the country. And so just to control that, additional forces have also been deployed on the ground. But the tension are rising. As I speak to you, the numbers of the protesters are also rising.
And what is the scene at the airport where you are? Do we know as to where the protests are at this moment focused on? Is it towards the political establishments, the symbols of the state, or are they also trying to track down where the leaders are headed?
That is exactly the point. They believe that the leaders will be leaving the country because their residences have been attacked, and that is why the additional forces have also been on ground. They want the current government to completely step down and a new system to be established in the country. And they believe even if the ministers have resigned, that's not enough, and thorough investigation is required, and their role in the government is no more needed.
And also, Saloni, at this moment, because this is a youth-driven protest, are there any prominent leaders of these youth who are out on the streets? Is there a certain level of political backing to these protests that are unfolding? Who's leading this protest?
Yes, it is. Just a moment. Yes. So many of the opposition parties have come out in support of the Gen Z's protest, and including the former Prime Minister's Pushpa Kamal Dahal's party, Maoist Center. And they even held a meeting earlier in the day to come out with a coordinated response to the situation. And the mayor of Kathmandu, who has a massive following across Nepal, has also come out in support. The Rashtriya Swatantra Party leader, Rabi Lamechhane, who is behind bars at the moment, has also extended his party's support. So these protests are gaining momentum, and they are getting the attention and the support from the opposition. But many of the Congress leaders, what is surprising is that the ruling coalition party, key coalition partner, that is the Nepali Congress, many of the leaders have also come out in support, Nepali Congress leaders, and have condemned the government's attack. Yeah.
All right, so some very dramatic scenes. Do continue to stay on with us, Saloni Murarka. This is what is unfolding at this moment in Nepal at the moment. As my colleague there was pointing out, that the Prime Minister's private residence has been attacked and set on fire. The residences of several of the other ministers have also been set on fire. My colleague Saloni at this moment is at the airport in Kathmandu, because there is apparently an expectation by the protesters that the leaders may try and leave the country. That is the fear, which is why many of these protesters have now gathered at the airport to prevent that from happening. But these are some very dramatic scenes that are unfolding at this moment in Kathmandu in Nepal, where the protesters have vandalized and set on fire several homes of some of the top cabinet ministers in Nepal, including that of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, where his private residence has, of course, been set on fire. This is what is unfolding at this moment. And my colleague Saloni Murarka is tracking all the developments at this moment from Kathmandu. Saloni, give us a sense of the demands that the protesters have, because this entire protest erupted because of the fact that the government had blocked many of these social media sites. The government has now revoked the ban. Is that not something that satisfies the protesters? Why are the protesters so unhappy? Is it only because of the social media ban that had been imposed, or are there other factors that are also at play here?
There are major other factors that is playing the role. Primarily, these protests started off and it gained momentum on internet as well for the rising corruption. That was the main case. But what happened was the ban on the social media. It just ignited that fear. It just ignited that anger and the frustration that people had here, especially the young people. Here at the moment, still they are protesting against the rising corruption. Their main focus is the corruption. However, of course, like you mentioned, the social media ban has been lifted. But they say that this is not our primary demand. Our demand is to put an end to the corruption, right? And put an end to this government. Yeah. And they say that they will continue to protest until the government steps down.
All right. Do continue to stay on with us, Saloni. These are the scenes that are unfolding at this moment in Kathmandu, where the youngsters especially have taken to the streets. This, remember, is a protest by the young who are extremely unhappy about the state of affairs in Nepal. Corruption is such a key driving factor of what has brought many of these youngsters out onto the streets. The fact that KP Sharma Oli decided to ban many of these social media sites, he, of course, later revoked the ban, but that has not satisfied many of these youngsters who are out in the streets, who are demanding that nothing less than a change of government is what will now satisfy them. So some pretty turbulent times at this moment, some pretty turbulent scenes unfolding in Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. The private residence of KP Sharma Oli has been set on fire, and the Home Minister of Nepal has stepped down, citing moral responsibility. It remains to be seen as to how things, of course, will proceed from here. But these are some very dramatic scenes of what is unfolding at this moment, where the Nepalese politics, it appears, is at an inflection point. KP Sharma Oli, we do not know about his whereabouts. His private residence has been set on fire, and a lot of the protesters have gathered at the airport because they expect that the Prime Minister could try and flee from the country as well.